Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of my top 5. I am HCD Rules 0001 and in this edition I would like to talk to you about my favourite cartoons. Now I'm not talking about cartoons in a newspaper, I'm talking about, motion cartoons, in other words things that we see on the TV. So to begin with, I'll give you my top 5 and then I will run off a list of additional contents because that's needed in this one, and I'll also give you a list of my favourite cartoon films. No 3D stuff as of yet because that can be a future episode. So to begin with my top 5 cartoons, number 5 is a cartoon that I literally grew up with. Was in full force for a few years when I was very young. This cartoon actually caused me to have a epileptic fit when I was sitting too close to the TV one year, and it's recently had a revival and a redo sort of thing. It's Thundercats. Now, Thundercats was one of my favourite programmes ever, and a couple of years ago I found a website where I managed to download all of the episodes, all 130 of them, and Channel 5 recently showed the 2011 version, which was more or less the same. The music obviously was different, the animation style was different. They've basically made it manga style and it fits the format of the show very well. The new version could be better. In some respects it is. The mere fact that Snarf doesn't talk in the new lot, and he was the most annoying character. I personally think every character has regressed in age somewhat, but you'll notice that if you see Thundercats, the 2011 version, if you haven't seen it yet, type it into YouTube, have a look at it, because it is actually worthy of a remake. It's actually a pretty good remake. And I downloaded those as well because I wanted to keep them. So Thundercats at number 5. You can't get better than the originals villains like Mumm-Ra, Slythe. The music to it is brilliant. There's actually a petition to Franklin Buss to release the music on a CD or something like that, because the music of Thundercats was awesome. And the music in an episode was awesome as well. So like if they had trouble, or if the cats got into trouble, that particular bit of music was pretty good as well. Number 4. Number 4 is a Looney Tunes cartoon, but it's a specific brand of Looney Tunes cartoon. It's Roadrunner, and this features a coyote who's probably one of the thinnest characters in cartoon, and he's chasing a roadrunner in and across the deserts and sort of plains. Looks like near the Grand Canyon or somewhere, in the deserts, and there's not a lot of towns and villages. Roadrunner is probably one of the fastest things ever. He just torments poor Wiley. And it's in my top 5 basically because of the comedy element. This setup of cartoons, the cartoons, you know what's going to happen in every episode. You know it basically before it's going to happen. But the mere fact it keeps happening to him, and poor old Wiley never wins. He never wins. And there's hardly much meat on the Roadrunner himself. I'd be going off and looking at something I can probably catch, you know what I mean? But Wile E. Coyote seems to have unlimited fund and money, because he's always going to the Acme company for his, catch Roadrunner stuff, like rockets and, you know, go faster powder and stuff like that. And the amount of birdseed he actually feeds Roadrunner with, I'm sure that's the reason Roadrunner keeps on tormenting him, because he knows he's going to get fed. But the best thing about Roadrunner is when Wily's chasing him and there's the smoke all around to symbolise how fast Roadrunner's going, and Wily's probably catching him up with some rocket powered roller skates or something like that, or jetpack on the back, and he's like and all of a sudden Roadrunner's stopped and he's facing him and he's up on the smoke, and Wily's gone after him. And you know that bit in cartoons where characters sometimes go off the edge of a cliff or something like that, and they obviously don't realise it. Wily always falls off the edge of a cliff. It's bloody brilliant, hilarious even to this day, and these things were made 50, 60, 70 years ago, these cartoons. The always delayed reaction, and when the smoke clears, like Roadrunner would be standing on the edge of a cliff and Wily would be up in mid-air, and Wily would be like smiling, licking his lips and going, and Roadrunner would be going like that. And then Wily would look down, and sometimes he'd just fall straight down, or there'd be a delayed reaction. He'll hold up a sign saying ouch or something like that. Just fantastic writing, very funny. If you haven't seen Roadrunner or a Roadrunner cartoon, watch one after you've seen this video on YouTube, because you are missing out. And if you haven't seen Roadrunner in a long time, have a look at it. These cartoons I've been talking about so far haven't been on the TV for some weird reason. I'll go more into that after I've spoken about my number one in this list. Number three, I grew up watching this. I was more into this than any other cartoon at the time, before another one came along. Based on a 1984 hit movie. It's actually based on my favourite movie of all time. It's Ghostbusters, or The Real Ghostbusters. At the time, or just before the cartoon was released, I think it's Filmation or Filmation, brought out a Ghostbusters cartoon which featured something like a 10-foot gorilla or something like that, and they were known as Ghostbusters, which was why at the time when the Ghostbusters cartoon, the one that features Egon, Ray, Winston, Peter, that was why they had to call them The Real Ghostbusters, because Filmation had brought out the rights to the name Ghostbusters in terms of cartoons. This featured the three paranormal experts and the guy they hired. It basically followed on from the Ghostbusters movie and took us to the second movie, which was when Ghostbusters started to lose popularity. But very clever writing, children's TV god, I would say. Haim Saban, he had a say in the writing. Some of the music to that, as well as like Thundercats, was just brilliant. Slimer actually became a pet of the Ghostbusters, and he could actually talk in sort of like broken English, which was quite funny sometimes. Him and Venkman were always at odds. I mean, he was always sliming Peter's clothes or whatever, and he'd always be nicking Peter's sandwiches, and so like, Peter was about to take a bite like that. They just brilliant. Some fantastic episodes, and interesting storylines. It's sad that programs like this aren't made anymore, but hopefully we'll be seeing a Ghostbusters revival in the next year or two. 3 should be coming out. It's a passing of the torch movie, which may lead to a new cartoon. You never know. It's happened with Thundercats, so why not Ghostbusters? Number two is a cartoon that I do believe everyone has seen at least one episode of this. It's on every day, sometimes more than twice a day, depending on what type of season it is, you know, whether it's half term or whatever. Its characters are consistently voted most popular. It's The Simpsons, and you can't tell me it's not a cartoon, because it is. The Simpsons is a cartoon and a sitcom all into one. It's cartoon enough so that the kids love it. The humour is adult enough, or the humour is so that the adults get it, and you know. So we're well into the Simpsons season 21, 22, maybe even 23 as I speak. It will be dying down after season 25, I think, and that's fair enough. I mean, these guys have gone on longer than anyone predicted, and you know, it keeps the show fresh. I mean, you've got the 5 Simpsons, but then you've got the support mechanism of the rest of the town, and you know, Springfield is always full of characters. So if the 5 characters of the Simpsons are barely in it, it'll be about the neighbour or the department store owner or the teachers or something like that. So there's always that background to fall upon. As I say, everyone's seen an episode of The Simpsons, and it's heading for 25 years, I personally think, and it's heading there because the show is so good, so clever and so funny. It's just the bit where Homer's on the skateboard on Springfield Gorge. I can watch that over and over again. The guy, he thinks he's going to make it, and he falls down the mountain, ow, ow, oh, ow, 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 and then falls on the ground, and then to add insult to more injury, the skateboard falls on his head. And so while they're winching him up in the helicopter to go in the back of an ambulance, he's all bandaged up and everything on a hospital gurney, and his head goes. His head keeps hitting the side of the cord. Ow! 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 And when they finally get the winch away, the helicopter's flown away, and they put him in the back of the ambulance. They close the ambulance door, and the ambulance drives straight into a tree. The door's open, and he falls down again on the hospital gurney. Ow! Oh! Oh! Ow! 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 Oh! Oh! I have to do it again, obviously, but Simpsons is just brilliant. Always has been, always will be. Some seasons can be a bit, you know, lacking in superb storylines, but as with the shows, you have to take the not so funny episodes with the funny episodes if you're into sitcoms and things like that, which will be a future Moaning Show my top 5 topic. And number 1, my favourite cartoon of all time is a cartoon that began life in, I do believe, very, very early 1940s, maybe 1939. Cat and a Mouse, that should basically give it to you, and it's all about the misadventures of the cat trying to catch the mouse, and the mouse 9 times out of 10 outwitting the cat. It's Tom and Jerry. Now, back to what I was saying earlier about Roadrunner. Tom and Jerry Roadrunner are not repeated on television these days, and you see this stuff on kids' TV like Odd Parents and some things set in a castle and Dracula and all of that rubbish. You shove an episode of Tom and Jerry or Roadrunner on telly these days, and it will get ripped to shreds by political correctness groups, mothers don't want to teach their kids, you know, not mothers, parents who don't want to teach their kids that hitting and things like that are not the right thing to do. But you shove an episode of Tom and Jerry or Roadrunner on the telly, or a few, you know, after another, and you watch the viewing figures. Tom and Jerry and Roadrunner are prime examples of when cartoons and people weren't afraid to offend. Not that there was any swearing, but the action, the cat, say like if Tom had a flea swat and he'd chase after Jerry, he'd only hit him like once or twice or something like that. And you know, they keep this stuff off the telly, this legendary stuff off the telly, because of that, because of the anti, you know, fighting or any bullying message, and it's just complete crap. that they keep this stuff off the telly. I made the purchase of my life when I bought Tom and Jerry box set. We're talking, I think, at least 6 discs for about £8, about 2-3 years ago now. It's one of the best things I've ever bought. It's my favourite cartoon, as I say, and it's just that brilliant. You need to see Tom and Jerry to see, especially the early stuff before the 60s, you know, that bit, you know, the early stuff where they play a bit of music, or they play a bit of classical music, plays along the whole 6 or 7 minutes of the episode, and Tom would be playing the piano and minding his own business, and Jerry would be sleeping on the piano keys, and the whole episode would revolve around Jerry trying to tease Tom. He's conducting him, and then he's using a pair of scissors and trying to snap his fingers while he's playing the piano. Brilliant. You don't get that stuff now. Just complete crap on the telly right now. But Tom and Jerry, my favourite cartoon by far. If you gave me 2 hours, you know, to watch a cartoon, if I had to make a choice, it would be Tom and Jerry, straight up. There's some fantastic Tom and Jerry episodes, themed episodes, like in a snooker hall or a pool hall, or at the beach, or catching fish, you know, or at the seaside. Brilliant episodes, fantastic music, and you don't get that sort of program base. You just do not get it. It's sad. It's sad. That's the way things are. Right, so on to my additional content side of things, and like I say, this is very sorely needed. I'll go through them as I've written them down on my list here. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the early stuff. I'm talking about the late 80s, early 90s stuff. I'm basically talking about the first few seasons. Basically, because you see that you see this origin story, and you know, 4 turtles become half human with, you know, mutant goo and things like that. They protect New York, but they have to do it secretly, because how would the world react if the world would react, you know, pretty strangely. The military would certainly catch them and make them do their bidding. So, and they have to take on an ancient or a Japanese martial artist who is the arch nemesis of their teacher. You know, you don't get much better storylines than that. Add it together with humour and futuristic weaponry and aliens, plus the music, and quite possibly one of the greatest shows. You had all of that, and it was Turtles. It was fantastic. On to now a series that I've recently discovered in the last 2 or 3 years, Batman the Animated Series. Now, this was probably as close to Batman that Bob Kane, the creator of the superhero, actually wanted him to be. 9 times out of 10, to begin with, at least, it was just him. No Robin. I mean, Robin was there in the background going to college, but you had Batman, you know, attacked by the Joker, or Riddler, Catwoman, or Two-Face, or whoever, and it was as close, as I think, to the storylines as the creator wanted it to be, because the cartoon was very dark. It used the movies, Batman and Batman Returns music, very well, I think. The struggle of Bruce Wayne's duality, you know, by day billionaire playboy, by night winged avenger. I mean, I love the story of Batman. It's the only superhero that can happen, and you know, just brilliant in my estimation. Voice direction, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker as the Joker. I mean, you could not make anything better. You can't tell it's him. And his laugh, Riddler's brilliant. Harley Quinn, created for the comics, was added in. If you see him in the comics, if you see him in the movies, they're in Batman the Animated Series, and it's just that good. I was brought onto it by a friend from where I used to work, so thank you, Graham, for that if you're watching. On to another one, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, Super Mario Brothers 3 cartoon, Super Mario World cartoon. This program, again, I grew up with. I don't know if he's watching, but my mate Peter and I used to play Mario and Luigi as kids. If you are watching, I'm sure you remember that. But just fantastic episodes. The Super Mario Brothers Super Show took on themed episodes. It would open with a plumber's log, a bit like Star Trek, so it would tell you where they were, what they were doing. They'd always go up against Cooper, apart from one episode, who turned out to be Bowser, but at the time he was known as Cooper, or King Cooper. As I say, themed episodes. There would be a Western episode, there would be a push bike race episode, or BMX bike race episode, you know, pasta episodes. They were nuts about pasta. All Mary wanted to do was go to the nearest cafe or restaurant and order a plate of pasta. Coopzilla, fantastic episode. And would they be caught and they had to bust their way out of jail and things like that. Just themed episodes like Star Wars, Star Trek, Robin Hood, and things like that. If there was anything that was created storyline wise, Mario parodied it, if that's the word. You know what I mean. And then we went on to Mario 3, where it was more themed in episode format. So in other words, they grabbed the powers, they helped out, and, you know, it was just the Mario World, where it started to die down a bit, but so did Mario's popularity at that time. So, but it's like I say, I grew up with it, and thanks to the internet, I'm watching all of these things again. You know, it's just fantastic. South Park. What more do I have to say about that? Haven't seen a lot of South Park in the last 5-6 years or so, but it has stopped really being on accessible TV. It's still going strong in America as far as I know. The movie, I think, caught a lot of people off guard, because the movie was basically a musical, and none of us knew that really. But, you know, the songs in the movie were pretty good. The mere fact that Cartman got a chip in his head to, you know, stop swearing. And if you'll pardon the expression for a moment. That's my impression of Cartman for you. The first cartoon really to turn against political correctness in the sense that they do swear, they do, you know, they do take the rise out of, you know, mega stars, Hollywood stars and stuff like that. It was just refreshing at the time it first came out, but that's why it's not in my top 5, because A, I haven't seen it for 5-6 years, and B, because, you know, it's funny, but not everyone likes it, and it's not as funny as some of the cartoons I've mentioned in my top 5 list. On to another couple of cartoons that I grew up with. First one of them, I got a poster on the front of my door. David Jason voiced this guy. Danger Mouse. Danger Mouse, not the rap artist. The rap artist can go to fucking hell. I'm talking about the good old-fashioned British cartoon Danger Mouse. Now, 9 times out of 10, Danger Mouse and his assistant Penfold would get caught in darkness, and a lot of the time that was to save money, because Danger Mouse had one eye, even though he had 2 completely good working eyes. He wore an eye patch, and I think eye patches are cool, I really do. But he had an eye patch over one eye, so all you would see is Penfold's 2 white eyes and Danger Mouse's 1 yellow eye, and that's all you would see in the screen. And then suddenly you'd hear a roar, Danger Mouse would light a match, strike a match, or turn on a torch, or there'd be a light switch or something. They'd turn it on and there's this big beastie type thing, and they'd run away from it. The music, nice and simple, da, 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 and that's all you'd hear throughout the episode. Baron Silas Greenback, just one of the best created baddies. Nothing serious about the show really. You know, one episode, all the world's tea reserves had been stolen or something like that. You know, it was a catastrophe, you know, but just brilliant writing. And to follow on from that, the same company made another David Jason voiced character, Duckula, or Count Duckula. Just not as funny as Danger Mouse, but it was a full half hour they had to fill. So there was this sort of like Van Helsing type duck, and he had to or he wanted to take down Count Duckula. So the thing about Count Duckula was he didn't want to bite people's necks. He was a vegetarian. Instead of blood using in the incantation to bring back a Duckula, it was tomato ketchup, as you see in the opening credits of the show. And David Jason voiced a harmless vegetarian vampire duck, I must say, and just one of the funniest programs. Not, like I say, not as funny as other things in this list, but you had to be there. He-Man, Masters of the Universe, the original, not the 2002 remake. You know, looking back on it now, he had gay hair, and I'm not being homophobic there. Anyone who has female head style, and you know, doesn't get laughed at if you're a bloke, if you're a macho bloke as well, like He-Man was. You gotta laugh at his hairstyle. You know, looking back on the costumes of the show, pretty raunchy stuff, I must say, but you know, that's looking back on it. Great villain in Skeletor. You know, brilliant stuff. Came up with a spin-off series called She-Ra, which is actually his twin sister, we found out. Made for girls, basically. Wasn't as successful, but nothing could have been. He-Man, we all loved He-Man, especially my age and a tiny bit older, because it was on, as I say, made by the same people who made the first Ghostbuster cartoon, Filmation. Great music. I have the power, and the voice would be so overpowering. You'd have his cat, Cringer, sort of like a green and yellow tiger. I mean, that's brilliant. And he'd get changed as well in the Battle Cat. Just brilliant. And the mere fact that his mum and dad were king and queen of the land, and they couldn't tell the difference between their son and He-Man. So basically all He-Man was, he wore a bit less, he wore pants, boots, and a sort of like a chain type thing, and he got a tan. And you know, Prince Adam, he didn't have a tan. He's like me, Prince Adam, with more hair, a more muscular build. Another couple I've written down here, both involve Dick Dastardly and Muttley. The first one is Wacky Races. Wacky Races, you always were rooting for Dick and Muttley. It was just that. They'd ever so like that's the finish line, they get to about there, they'd win. But you know, full of other races, Penelope Pitstop, Professor Pat Pending, Peter Perfect, or whatever, Yakusaur Chugabug, the Anthill Mob. Just watch Wacky Races, you'll know what I'm talking about. And one that I did want to get, but I can't seem to find anywhere, Stop the Pigeon, or you know, it's something like that. It was a carrier pigeon, and Dick Dastardly, Muttley, along with their motley crew, were always trying to stop this carrier pigeon bringing notes from the war, and it was just all about that. These guys couldn't stop a little pigeon carrying a little notice, because the pigeon would always outfox them, or outfly them in this case. And this guy who couldn't speak properly, you know, you had the coward, oh, I don't want to do it, and this guy who'd always come up, the inventor of the planes and all the contraptions and everything, he couldn't speak properly. He spoke to like, you know, like that, and the cowardly one would always be able to translate. And the best thing about it would be, Muttley did something good, he'd get a medal. I suppose you want a medal? And Muttley would always go, yeah. And when he'd do something wrong later on in the episode, the medal would get taken away. But Muttley would always win, because if the planes always got damaged or whatever, Muttley would be able to fly with his tail. And that's where I think Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog came from. So that's about it from the cartoons. We're quite a way into this video already. Just going to quickly go through my cartoon films. I haven't got very many of them, so I'm not going to put them in a list. I'm just going to let you know. Family Guy, Star Wars. I love Star Wars, so anything that takes the parody out of that, I do enjoy. The only bad thing, a lot of people would be thinking, well, why haven't you got Family Guy in your list? Now, I haven't got Family Guy on my list because I've seen about 3 episodes of Family Guy. You know, Family Guy's alright, but Family Guy, you know, I'd have to see more of it to enjoy it properly. So that's why Family Guy Star Wars is in this list. I didn't particularly like the mere fact that Obi-Wan's character was basically a paedophile, but that's obviously the character in the show. You know, the rest of it was pretty clever and quite funny. Not hilarious, but quite funny. But it is it's a set of 3 cartoon films. Next up, I'll give you my next non-Disney one, because the rest are Disney. Five All Goes West, American Tail 2. Better than American Tail 1, even though number 1 was brilliant. Number 2 was just that much better. John Cleese as the main cat villain, you know, speaking with his normal accent, you know, a British cat. The singing in it is brilliant, the music's fantastic. Produced or directed by Steven Spielberg. This is how good this cartoon was. Basically this Russian family of mice, you know, it's all animals basically. This Russian family of mice have migrated to America. Things are not going well, so they go further into America and they go out west. You know, where John Cleese's evil villain cat is trying to set up an empire and make the mice into mouse burgers. So he really is being evil, even though he's not being evil in front of the mice yet. And Fievel, the hero of the story, you know, dreams of becoming a sheriff, and that eventually happens by the end of the movie. Great music, great storyline. Don Bluth animation, I think. And if you haven't seen Five All Goes West or American Tail, I strongly recommend that you do. Very good films. As I say, at least the first 2 are good. You know, they're the same sort of production company that made The Land Before Time. 12 or 13 movies that there seems to be. Might be a bit of exaggeration there, but not by much. The rest in the cartoon films are Disney, so I'm just going to list them. Dumbo, I think, was probably the first cartoon movie that I actually saw. I remember watching it when I was 3 or 4, I think, and that was a good experience. Whenever I watch Dumbo now, I get teary-eyed at the bit where she's hugging him through the cage doors. You know, it's a very moving song, it's a very moving moment, and a very particular so I'm getting hard just speaking about it. Very particular to, you know, if you've lost a mother or whatever, you have to look at that scene and be emotionally involved with it. I'm not being nasty here, but that's going to be me in a couple of years' time, because my mother currently goes to dialysis, and you know, I don't think she's going to last another 10 years. So that particular movie moment is is more relevant now, and will be continue as Mum faces her twilight years. Excuse me. Apologies for getting a bit emotional there, but that's just how I feel about that particular scene. The mere fact that this elephant, with African elephant, and the other elephants are Indian elephants, they take the rise out of him, and the mere fact he can fly with these bigger ears is just a brilliant invention. I don't know who came up with the story, but you know, just good stuff. Jungle Book. What more do I need to say? Even though I will. Bloody hell. Music, fantastic. Storyline, this baby gets dropped or running away from a tiger, I think it is, the main villain of the story, and some wolves take him in, a panther, and all these animals could talk, by the way, as they can, you know, they just put on a voice, you know, they put on their human, non-human voices when we go near them. That's what I think anyway. Like Toy Story, toys come to life, of course they do, but they always have to revert back to the place where they are usually kept. But like I say, you escort the man cub back to the man village, Baloo the bear, Shere Khan the tiger, King Louie the orangutan, just fantastic ideas by Rudyard Kipling, brought to life by Disney properly. And like I say, I'm on about the cartoon, not the live action lump of rubbish. Aladdin, I probably said this in another film, top 5, but one of my favourite films. Robin Williams as the genie, just manic, and like I say, a lot of improvisation from Robin Williams. I like the story of Aladdin anyway, because it's, you know, loser makes good. I'm always into them types of films. And I will say this, in this particular bit, my favourite cartoon film of all time is Disney's Robin Hood, with the fox, the vixen, the bears and the lions and the snakes and everything. Terry Thomas as Sir Hiss, Peter Ustinov as Prince John. Just fantastic writing, fantastic script, great music. You know, I have to watch that film at least once a year, you know, once, twice, 3 times a year maybe, you know, because I love it. I used to, and the tune from it, everyone knows the tune from Disney's Robin Hood. You know that one, everyone knows that. Released as a sort of like a high-pitched hamster song a couple of years ago. Didn't do very well, but you can't beat Disney's Robin Hood. I mean, the story of Robin Hood is brilliant anyway. You had foxes and singing and, you know, just brilliant, just brilliant. And Maid Marian was quite literally a fox in that one. So that's about it for this edition of my top 5. These videos appear to be getting longer and longer, but you know, that's just the way things go. Keep an eye out very shortly for WWE prediction videos and things like that, and Formula 1 prediction videos. I've had a couple of suggestions as to what my Formula 1 video should be called, the fast lane and something like the stop and go. You know, I like the checkered flag, you know, anything to do with racing. If you like F1 like I do, or if you know, you like my videos, come up with some suggestions for titles for you know, future F1 videos, because the F1 videos won't till March, so come to me with suggestions for those, and I'll see you next time on my top 5.